let's get started, and today we will be exploring Python and specifically learning different data types and conditional statements. So let's get started with data types. So programs store different types of data. So within a new program, it's not necessarily going to remember everything that you told the last program. So it's just important to remember that these programs are storing data and it's not like universal, right? So what's in one program necessarily won't apply to all programs. Awesome. And then just a reminder that numbers do not equal letters in the alphabet. This is similar to the English language. We can't just substitute numbers and letters as we wish. We have to use them where it is appropriate. That's just important to remember while coding, and we will explore that in a later activity. Okay, so let's review over the different types of data. And there is 4 that we will talk about right now. So the first is string, which is intended use for text. So in case someone ever says like a string, you just know that they are talking about text. And it's important to remember that these strings are always accompanied by quotation marks. So in this, there is a variable called myWords, and its value is "Hi, I'm 16" in quotation marks. That's sort of how we use strings. The next is a Boolean, which signifies true or false statements. So we can create a variable called "isRaining" and then set its value either true or false. And in this specific, it is false. Awesome. And then the next 2 types of data refer to numbers. So we have integers, which are always whole numbers, but they can be positive or negative. And then we also have floats, which is for any type of number, positive, negative, a whole number, or a decimal. Amazing. So our next activity will be learning about these different data types and how they are used in Python. Okay, so all you will need is your computer and this link where we do Python. So can everyone open this link? I will paste it in the chat. Okay, so you can just take a few more minutes to get set up, but we will be started. This activity will start by creating a variable called combination. So everyone, once you have your online Python site open, just create this variable called combination. So once you've just simply typed combination equals, our next step is to add a string and an integer. So string, remember, is always accompanied by quotation marks, and we can kind of say anything inside, and then say plus, and then any integer. So far the code should look something like combination equals hi plus 6. And so give me a thumbs up once you've created this. So once everyone is done adding their integer and a string of words, next make a print statement. But don't press run yet, we will do that as a group. Okay, awesome. And then the next step is to run the code. So what happened? I know for my code, I said this string, hello, how are you doing today on a scale from 1 to 10? And then I added the integer 10, and then I tried printing it, but I know I got this syntax error that the code cannot convert integer object into string implicitly. All right, so did everyone else kind of get that error?
I made it say hi 6.
Oh, okay. I think what you did is you included quotation marks around the integer.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, okay. Our goal was to just kind of see, the purpose of this activity was to see how integers and string interact together. And our goal was to get that error to show that numbers and letters cannot be used. But of course, if a number is included in a string in quotation marks, then that is fine. Yeah. So what happened? For most, a syntax error occurred because numbers and letters cannot be used interchangeably in Python. So quick discussion question, why would we use an integer and why would we use string? Does anyone want to take a guess?
For the integer, when we use integer, we're making sure we don't write a letter.
Yeah, exactly.
And for string, we need to make sure we don't write a number.
Yeah, exactly. It's important to make sure that we don't kind of switch integers and strings when we're trying to use the opposite. But also, like, in what situation do we need to use an integer? Like, what code will we be making? I know I would like to use an integer if I'm creating a calculator or if I'm doing some sort of mathematical operation. But if I'm just writing, if I'm doing the next activity, which will include some writing stories, it's important to use strings. Okay, so we will continue on with learning if and else statements. So our objective is to learn how if-else statements work through visual representations and coding. So here's what an if-else statement is. A condition must be satisfied in order for the command or the instruction to be performed. An example of this is that, here's an alarm clock example. So if it is Saturday, go off at 10 a.m. If it is not Saturday, and if it is not 10 a.m., the alarm clock will not go off. Here's another example of an if statement. If x, the value of which we do not know, is less than 4, then print out the value of x plus is less than 4. Or else, if it is not less than 4, then print out x plus is greater than or equal to 4. Alright. Another example of these if and else statements is if I am cool, then the computer will say I am cool. Or else, if I am not cool, the computer will say I am not cool. So how do we use this when writing code? Here is an example. So first, you start off by defining the variable which you are going to use. In this example, we have Jessica equals quotation marks cool. And then we continue on to write the conditional statement. If Jessica equals cool, and also a side note, I cannot emphasize this enough, but when writing conditional statements, you need to put a double equals sign, as you can see here. It's very important, or else the computer will not recognize that you are writing a conditional statement. So let's continue on. If Jessica is cool, then print Jessica is cool. Or else, if Jessica is not cool, print Jessica is not cool. Alright, so that's kind of a lot to take in at a time, so let's kind of walk through it more slowly. If we click run on this code, what do you guys think will happen?
It will say Jessica is cool because on the top it says Jessica equals cool.
Yeah, exactly. So in case anyone is confused, we set the value of Jessica to cool, that string of words in the very beginning. And then later we're just using the computer and saying that if this is true, which again we specified earlier that it is, then we'll say Jessica is cool. And also what's important in these conditional statements, only one of these phrases will be printed. And that's depending on if the statement is true or false. But again, as Leia nicely said for us, in this specific statement, it will print out that Jessica is cool because we specified that earlier in the code. Okay, so do you guys think that we can go on and create our own if else or conditional statements?
Yes.
Or are we a little confused? It's pretty simple when it's what we specified.
Okay.
Yes, Leia?
Paper?
Yeah, so this is our next activity, which is Mad Libs. So what you need is a paper, pencil, and a computer, but paper and pencil is optional. You can easily substitute it with a computer. Alright, so part 1, Mad Libs. So has anyone ever heard of a Mad Lib or know what it is? The name might not be familiar, but I'm sure that once we open the activity, you might remember. So basically, a Mad Libs is an activity where one person plugs in words or numbers into sort of a pre-written template, given prompts, and then the words come together to make a story. And so what the user has to do is put in words or numbers based on the prompt. Alright, so this sounds a little bit confusing, but basically Mad Libs, they ask you for like adjectives, names, nouns, or verbs, and then you write those into a pre-written story. So let's model this. So I would like everyone to say an adjective, a name, a noun, another adjective, and a noun, and I will write these down and use them for our next story. Alright, so can someone give me an adjective? Yes, Leia?
Colorful.
Exactly. Colorful. And then what's a name?
Dog.
Bob. And then a noun.
Computer.
Sounds good. Another adjective.
Good.
Good.
Bad or something. You can say bad too.
Here, we'll go with good for now. And then I need 2 different nouns. So person, place, or thing.
Ball and book.
Okay, so our words are colorful, Bob, computer, good, ball, and book. So, all right. Let's use these in the pre-written story that was written. So pizza was invented by a colorful Italian chef named Bob. To make pizza, you take a lump of computer and make a thin, round circle. Then you cover it with good sauce, cheese, and fresh chopped ball. Next, you have to bake it in a very hot book. When it's done, cut it into triangles. I would eat pizza 1,000,000 times a day. Alright, so as we can see, Mad Libs are they're silly, right? The sentences don't always make sense, which is kind of what makes them fun. And writing them is definitely fun, which leads us to our next activity. So I would like everyone to write their own Mad Libs, and then take out random words. So do however is convenient for you. You can open up a tab of Google Docs, or if you would prefer to write it out on paper, but I think we should do Google Docs so that way we can copy and paste it. So yeah, let's take a few minutes to write our own Mad Lib sentence. So how we can do this, in case this sentence doesn't really make sense, is we will write our own story, but then take out adjectives, certain nouns, and so then later we were going to code it and allow the user to input those words. So in case that doesn't make sense, I have written a short story here. I have written a short story, but then taken out some like certain words like animals, adjective, feeling, noun, etc. And so I would like everyone to do the same. So again, we can take 5 minutes to write our own Mad Lib story. And so you can be however creative as you want, and let me know if you have any questions. And again, just as a reminder, we are going to use this story in our code.
And I typically think I took out some words that aren't like adjectives, nouns, verbs. I think.
Yeah, that's okay. All right, so let's continue on. Before we move on to transforming our own stories into code, let's analyze this set of code. So what do you guys think that this will do?
Noun one.
Wait, tell a story? Wait, no.
Wait, it's gonna be kind of like a Mad Lib thing.
Yeah.
Because it says like plus noun one, and noun one is input enter a noun, so we have to enter a noun.
Yeah, exactly.
So we have to write a noun, and then it will say it.
Exactly.
Also, it's basically a Mad Lib.
Yeah, exactly. It is a Mad Lib. And then what do you think this will do? This if-else statement. Hint, it has to do with noun 2.
Yeah, I already saw that.
Wait, what?
Enter W for a window and D for a door. So it says if noun 2 equals W, if else window, else if else door.
Exactly.
What's if else? I thought it would just say print.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it should say print. But no, what it's doing, actually, sorry, it's setting a new variable, if else, but this if else can have 2 different values depending on what the user says. This way we can just insert it right into the print statement later.
So does it mean if you write W, it will say window?
Yeah, so if we write W,
and if you write D, it's going to be for door.
exactly. But we just created a new variable, so that way we only have to put 1 in the print statement. All right, but let's kind of go through this code more slowly, right? So at the beginning, it asks for a bunch of user inputs. And luckily, they named the variables with similar names relating to what the code is asking for, what the input is asking for. So here we have input to the question, enter a noun. And then this is called noun 1. And then we have verb 1, animal, noun 2, and noise. And then these are all used in the print statement. So we can see our sentence is copied and pasted. I was home alone and scared out of my. And then we add the user input for noun 1. And then period. I could hear the wind, add verb 1, which again is the user input. Ing and off in the distance, a. Then add the animal input, was howling. I locked the, and then the if-else statement. So again, here, if the user types in a W, so if noun 2 equals W, then the value of that variable will be window. But if they type a D, then the value will be door. All right, and then the code continues. Went back into bed and pulled my blanket over my head. There was a huge plus noise, again, user input, and then I heard the door open. Okay, awesome. And let's continue on and kind of see this code in action. So if we press run, here, enter a noun. Does someone help me think of a noun?
Computer.
Computer. Enter a verb. Zooming. Run? That probably makes more sense. An animal.
Wolf.
Lion.
Wolf.
Wolf. Should we type in a W or a D? W. And type of noise.
Screech.
Screech. Alright. I was home alone and scared out of my computer. I could hear the wind running, and off in the distance, a wolf was howling. I locked the window, went back into bed, and pulled my blanket over my head. There was a huge screech, and then I heard the door open. Alright, very suspenseful, very scary.
It would have been better it would have been more boring if we wrote D, because then if we locked the door, it makes more sense.
That's true.
But it doesn't.
Do you guys want to? We can run it again.
It doesn't make sense that it said I was scared out of my computer.
Yeah, that doesn't make sense. All right, let's try doing the Mad Lib once again. Let's do it once again, and hopefully this time it will make more sense. So, enter a noun.
Well, I know it says I was scared out of my, so I'm trying to think of a good one for that.
I'm scared out of my
bed.
Sure. Enter a verb.
Jumped.
I jumped, not keys. Enter an animal, wolf. That made more sense.
Can we do moose?
The wolf was howling.
Can we do a moose was howling or a cow was howling?
The wolf.
All right, a wolf. W, and then some
D.
Enter a type of noise.
Screech.
All right, I was home alone and scared out of my bed.
I could hear the wind jumping up in the distance. A wolf was howling. I locked the door, went back to bed, and I pulled my blanket over my head. There was a huge screech, and then I heard the door open.
All right, this time it made a little bit more sense.
Yeah.
But wow, that was very suspenseful. And now we are going to create our own Mad Libs using the story we wrote before. So, okay, we're going to have 10 minutes, but we'll probably end up taking a little bit more than that to create our own Mad Libs. So here are the guidelines, which I would recommend typing into your Google Doc just so you have them for reference, because I believe we're going to go on to the last slide so you guys have an example, right? So you guys can kind of see, have a general idea of what you're doing. All right, so when writing our Mad Libs, we have a few requirements. Oh, not 3. All right, the first requirement is that we must ask the user for at least 3 inputs, right? And then the inputs will be assigned a variable, which we will then use in the print statement. All right, so ask the user for at least 3 inputs. and one must involve an if or else statement. So for example, you can ask the user for blue or red. If they respond B, use blue, or R to use red. The next requirement is to use a string and a number. And then the last requirement is that you print the Mad Libs at the end. All right, so maybe everyone, here, I will retype these into the chat, and then I will make sure to keep the example up on the board, and then we'll all have around 10 to 15 minutes to write the code. And this code is a little bit tricky, but I'm glad that hopefully we learned something today, even if the Mad Libs didn't work as well as we wanted them to. Hopefully we still get something out of it. So then before we kind of wrap up, I want to have a quick discussion. Why do we use if-else statements, those conditionals that we kind of learned about briefly today? If we remember in the example when there was W for window and D for door, that was when we used it. So why do you think they are helpful? Any idea? Even if we didn't get to use them in our specific code. For example, if I show the code that we kind of looked at earlier, here we have, remember, if equals W, if else equals window. Like, why did this help in the story?
Well,
So you don't do both?
Yeah.
That's your choice.
so if you don't do anything weird like a computer.
Exactly. It's kind of a way to make it, it's like a different approach to asking this input, right? So, I don't know, they can just be very convenient, and so that way you don't have to make
Computer or something.
exactly, yeah. I don't know.
Make no sense.
Yeah, so basically just all in all, if-else statements are helpful to make different situations, and these can be very convenient. Unfortunately, we didn't get to the second lesson, but for example, if it's like raining or if it's not raining, you will need to do different things based on what is true. So, if W equals window, then say window, or if D, or if W equals something else, then don't say window. It just helps to create kind of new and different situations. All right, so I apologize that today was a little bit of a confusing lesson, but hopefully we still get something out of it and aren't left too confused. And hopefully, again, you guys learned something throughout these coding workshops throughout the past month or so.